Well, guys, you already know what time it is. New comic book day is right around the corner. It's time to take a look at the books coming out this week so I can tell you what I'm getting. What's up, guys? BJ Kicks here. I buy comics, I read them, and I review them, all for your viewing pleasure. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. This is the latest in the series I like to call What I'm Getting, where I take a look at all the books coming out for the upcoming week. I tell you what's on my pull list, what's on the chopping block, and what's on the maybe list that I'll be making a game day decision on. Now, if you're new around here, I always love to start with the book that I am most excited for. And this week, that is Dark Crisis #1. If you know me, you knew this was going to be my pick. I'm a big fan of DC Comics, the whole DC universe. When I started reading comics, it was mostly because I love cartoons, and the DC animated universe it's just far and above any other animation, especially when we're talking about superheroes. Like DC animation versus Marvel animation, it's like the MCU versus DC Extended Universe. Like, there's just no comparison. But anyway, because I love DC animated stuff, I jumped into DC Comics pretty much head first. And so they've pretty much been my publisher of choice, although I have no bad words to say about any other publisher. But anyway, Dark Crisis is the latest in a long line of crises that, of course, will have world-changing implications for the DC universe. We've had the implementation of the multiverse and then the omniverse after Death Metal. And this does feel like a reset coming too soon, in my opinion. But what I'm excited about with this event is that this is sort of a love letter to DC Crisis. And so for someone like me who didn't read, Crisis on Infinite Earths or Infinite Crisis or Final Crisis or Identity Crisis or Crisis. No, I'm joking. But for someone like me who didn't read any of those as they were coming out, it can be difficult to understand the implications of each. And this Dark Crisis by Joshua Williamson promises to sort of connect the dots between all of these events. So while we are getting a new status quo change for the DC universe, it's also going to be a bit of a history lesson and a love letter to DC Comics. And I think it's a great jumping in point. I know that sounds crazy, but I think it's a great jumping in point for people who are newer to DC Comics lore and history. As far as a synopsis of the event, the Justice League are dead. They died in Justice League issue 75. And this Dark Crisis is kind of, we're learning why they died, how everybody's reacting to it. And obviously somebody's going to save the day. Presumably all the legacy characters and sidekicks that were left behind. So I'm excited because I know that I'm going to get history of characters that I've never seen or never really experienced since I started reading comics in 2019. Look, I'm talking way too much about this event. The point is, I'm excited about this book, and it's out this Tuesday with a cover price of $5.99. I'm just getting the cover A. Now, since we're talking about DC Comics, let's go to the rest of the pull list. This next up is Batman issue 124. So the Shadow War is over, and I somehow managed to go through the entire Shadow War without reading a single issue. But Batman is back in Gotham post Shadow War, and there's some things that have been happening while he's gone. So he's suspecting that Abyss is back. Now, if you remember, Abyss was introduced way back in Batman 118. But yeah, when Joshua Williamson first started on Batman. And so it's good to know that at least, like, we're not just going to get villains just in and out, like new characters for no reason. At least something's going to be done with this guy. But anyway, back in Gotham post Shadow War, Batman number 124. How's this going to fit in with the Dark Crisis? I don't know. Maybe Dark Crisis is just taking place in its own little continuity. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll mention it somewhere. It's got a cover price of $4.99. I'm getting cover A. By the way, there's also a backup story in this week's issue of Batman that is a direct prologue to the new Poison Ivy book that comes out this week. Poison Ivy #1 is not on my pull list, but if you're interested in Poison Ivy, you may want to pick up this week's issue of Batman. Next up from DC Comics is Dark Knights of Steel issue #7. Dark Knights of Steel, written by Tom Taylor with art by Yasmin Putri. I've fallen behind. I don't think I've read issue 6 of Dark Knights of Steel. Really been enjoying it so far. I keep telling you guys, it's like this Game of Thrones skin on top of the DC universe, but there are some major changes to these characters that you just wouldn't expect. You gotta read it. They're doing a hardcover collecting the first 6 issues. I highly recommend picking that up if you didn't read the series already, but go ahead and grab issue 7. That way you can be all caught up. Like, you're gonna want to be all caught up. But anyway, this issue, Batman was betrayed in the last issue, and he's found this band of mystical teenagers who apparently they're all going to try to inspire each other to get better and to recover. And yeah, that is going to be interesting. Batman using teenagers to deal with trauma, something we've never seen before, right? It's got a cover price of $3.99. I'm getting cover A. And the next and last book on my DC Comics pull list is Monkey Prince, issue number 5. Monkey Prince, written by Jean Lin Yang, artwork by Bernard Chang. Dog, Monkey Prince is just great. It is just such a great book. Again, if you like books like Super Sons, books where, we've got young leads, books that are just fun for the sake of being fun, you got to be picking up Monkey Prince. We're in the second to the last issue here. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's a 6-issue mini, but definitely jump on this. This one sees Marcus, aka the Monkey Prince, taking a trip to Atlantis. I love this Jaws inspired cover. I'm excited about this book. It's some of the most fun that I'm having in comics right now, and it's got a cover price of $3.99. I'm just getting the cover A. So that's actually it for my DC Comics pull list. If I just stick to the list, don't pick up any extras or variants, I'm looking at a total of $19. And that's actually kind of low for DC, but definitely a welcome change. And here we have a special cameo appearance. Say what's up, Squeak. Say hi. You want to wave? Say hi. Okay. Are you going to let me do the rest of the show? All right. Well, we talked about the DC Comics on the list. Now let's go ahead and move over to Marvel, aka the House of Ideas, where the first book on my pull list is The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3. Amazing Spider-Man by Zeb Wells with art by John Romita Jr. Honestly hasn't been bad, but there were some pretty large implications made in issue 1. Implications probably isn't the word, but there was a huge shift made in issue 1, and we didn't get a follow-up on it in issue 2. And it looks like we're not getting a follow-up on it in issue 3 either. This appears that it's going to be a Tombstone-focused issue, which is fine. But it seems like they're just kind of saving all the big reveals for issue 900, which is just 3 issues away. So I guess I'll have to wait to get follow-up on all these different story points they've been teasing. But in issue 1, they tease something significant about Mary Jane. In issue 2, they tease something significant about Norman Osborn and how he relates to Peter Parker. In issue 3, again, it's supposed to be a Tombstone-focused story. I like this cover, but yeah, it looks like there's going to be teasing stuff until issue 900. So I guess we're along for the ride. It's got a cover price of $3.99, and I'm getting cover A. Now, the next book on my Marvel pull list is Marauders, issue number 3. Marauders, written by Steve Orlando. Ever since Marauders started, I really enjoyed it, like back when it was Jerry Dugan during the dawn of X. And what I liked about it was like this kind of swashbuckling Kitty Pryde on a boat, rescuing mutants. And I really loved that concept. And they kind of moved away from it pretty quickly. Under this relaunch, we're supposed to be kind of getting a return to form of sorts, except the Marauders are in space, in Shi'ar space, trying to rescue mutants from the Shi'ar Empire. And that's just not quite as interesting to me. I'm not big on like galactic X-Men of all things, but whatever. I will say though, I don't know how much longer this series has on the pull list. It's definitely a chopping block contender. I'm going to try to stick it out through this first story arc, but don't be surprised if you don't see it on the list in future months. Now, the next, that's got a cover price of $3.99, and I'm getting cover A. Now, the next book on my Marvel Comics pull list is Thor, issue number 26. Now, Thor is written by Donny Cates, who is also writing the Hulk. And right now we are in the middle of this Thor-Hulk crossover, Banners of War. In fact, this is Banners of War issue number 4, or part 4. I can't lie. I'm kind of tired of all of these different crossovers. We just got done with the Shadow War in Batman. And then before that, there was like Shadows of the Bat and Detective Comics. And then the X Lives and X Deaths of Wolverine. And before that, maybe SpiderMan was weekly. I kind of miss monthly comics being monthly comics. I was enjoying the Hulk before this crossover started, but I feel like I didn't ask for a crossover. And now I got to buy more books just to like understand what's happening in Hulk. And it's kind of annoying. Now you would think I would boycott it by not buying it. No, instead I'm just boycotting it by continuing to buy it, but not reading it until later on, which sounds super crazy. But Banners of War Part 4 is in this week's issue of Thor. I do love the cover, so that's exciting. It's got a cover price of $3.99. I'm getting cover A. Now, the next book on the pull list is Venom, issue number 8. Speaking of Donny Cates, this is not written by Donny Cates, but I haven't been as excited about this series since Donny Cates was writing it. I can't lie, man. I love Dylan Brock, and I love the stuff that was started in Donny Cates' run with Dylan Brock. And Ram V's been doing a decent enough job, like kind of continuing those threads and giving Dylan a story of his own. But the Eddie Brock stuff, I haven't been as interested in. And all in all, the Venom title just doesn't feel as exciting as it did a year ago. And so it's been a slow starter for me. This is issue number 8. And honestly, it's a chopping block contender, but the solicit says this is going to be a big moment for Eddie Brock for these next 3 issues. So they're either going to win me over to this Eddie Brock saga, or they're going to turn me off completely and I'm going to drop the title. I don't know which of the two it's going to be, but I'm very, very much on the fence about continuing this series. It's got a cover price of $3.99. I'm getting cover A. And that's it for my Marvel Comics pull list. If I just stick to the list and don't buy any variants or whatever, my Marvel total is just going to be $16 this week. Again, it's a light week, and that's honestly the only thing that's saving Marauders from being chopped off my list. But again, $16. Now let's move on to the indies, the creator-owned, the smaller publishers, where the only non-Marvel or DC book on the pull list this week is Spawn, issue 330. Listen, I do these shows like every week. You know by now that I'm buying Spawn strictly for the artwork. And I love this cover A. It's pretty awesome. And so that's why I'm buying it. It's $3 for a pretty cover that I'm going to look at a bunch and then put in a box. I should probably find better ways to spend this $3, but I mean, it's keeping the run going. I've got 31 consecutive issues of Spawn. So this got a cover price of $2.99. I'm getting cover A. And that's it for the indie list this week. If I just stick to the list and buy this issue of Spawn that I probably should have cut off a long time ago, I'm paying $3 for my indie books, which brings me to a grand total of $38 for the pull list this week. Now that's before taxes and before my 10% subscriber discount. So it's a good week. Now, if I did cut out Marauders and Venom from the pull list, then I would just be at $30. But I was already under budget anyway, so I'm not really feeling so heavy about cutting books out. But you got to read what you buy. I preach that all the time. So these books continue to drag the way they are. Expect the scissors to come out. But that's my pull list this week. What's on your list? By the way, I got to give a huge thanks and shout out to all of you guys who shopped with me on my second Whatnot sale. It went well. All the packages are out the door, and I'm excited about that fact. So assuming, everything continues to go well, I'm probably going to do this like once a month on Whatnot. So if you have not signed up for a Whatnot account, use the link. It's in the description below. They'll actually give you a $10 spending credit that you can use on anyone's live stream, not just mine. But definitely follow me on Whatnot at BJ Kicks. As I keep buying comics every week, the need for room continues to arise. So definitely grab that, or definitely follow me there. You'll have some chances at some pretty cool items from my collection. The next show I'll do, It's going to be all single issues, all really fun variants, and then some sets of things from like the last 3 years that have come out that maybe I bought in trade paperback or another format. So that's going to be exciting. Definitely follow me on Whatnot. I look forward to seeing you in another live stream soon. And of course, I'll announce the details here as soon as I have them. That's going to do it for me and today's video. Hope you saw something you liked. And if not, hey, that's cool. You can always buy what you like. Just make sure you read what you buy. And be nice to others, because kindness makes the world go round. Peace.